What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and there's been some updates to the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, attendance issues, including employees being having their hours cut, and the question is, will layoffs be next? We're also seeing some interesting trends with the Star Wars toys inside of specifically Walmart that I want to discuss. I hope you're having a great day, and we've got a lot to talk about as usual. Let's start with the Galaxy's Edge news. Disneyland reportedly cuts Galaxy's Edge hours due to low Star Wars Galaxy's Edge attendance. This is via comicbook.com. The hype surrounding the launch of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge expansion in Disneyland this summer couldn't have been any bigger, which is why it's so incredibly surprising that the new attraction hasn't been a massive hit. Disneyland attendance saw a decline last quarter, according to recent Disney earnings with call CEO Bob Iger, and the opening of Galaxy's Edge hasn't helped. In fact, it may have actually be hurting the park, just as people have decided to stay away entirely to avoid the crowds. See, I see a lot of people talking about this. I see this presented as a reason for lower attendance, but I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying I haven't seen anyone, including CEO Bob Iger, present any real data as to like backing that up. Okay, people are staying away because they think the park will be packed. Do you have any evidence, or is that just speculation? That, coupled with the unfortunate blackout dates decision made by Disney Parks, has led to lower attendance. Now, those blackout dates affect people that have season passes, not anyone else, which means less hours for employees that work there. Quote, wait times this summer for the new Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Ride were expected to be over 2 hours this summer, but in reality, the lines have been averaging half that or less. An employee who remains anonymous told Fox Business, quote, as a result, the company has been forced to cut labor hours. They need us to work. The need for us to work is simply not there. Our hours have been cut to as low as 30 to 35 hours some weeks, even though we have both worked for the park for years, they continued. It makes my life challenging when your paychecks opens new window, gets cut expectedly. I feel that's weird. Maybe I don't get that reference. Quote, I feel the problem in Star Wars is to look too long. I feel the problem is Star Wars took too long to build, so they rushed the opening with only one cool feature. The only other big ride isn't even scheduled to open until the end of the year, that source added. Well, that's interesting, right? Opening it early probably wasn't a good idea, but it reminds me of that quote, right? A rushed game is never good. A delayed game, is eventually great, or some paraphrasing there. Essentially, it seems like that's what Disney should have done in terms of the theme park, if there's data to suggest that people aren't going because it's not all the way done. I suppose I could see, if I was a hardcore Star Wars fan, some portion of those people being like, hey, let's just wait till it's done. But on the other hand, we've got a new movie coming out, and where's all the hype for the new movie, by the way? On the other hand, I see what happened to the hardcore Star Wars fans that line up around the block. A truly hardcore fan would go multiple times anyway. They would be there right when it opened, and then they would also be there maybe when the new ride opened. They go on to say, full-time cast members know that they are regularly scheduled between 30 and 40 hours per week, and that schedules vary depending on the number of factors, a spokesperson said. That's for Disney. Fox Business reached out to Disney, and the company stated full-time employees are always in line to 34 hours a week. So the question is, are they really being cut, or are they just, are they bottoming out? While the strange launch of Galaxy's Edge is seemingly responsible for the decline of Disneyland attendance, the drop in parkgoers at Orlando's Disney World is likely due to people waiting for the version of Star Wars expansion to open. The current launch date is in Orlando is August 29th. The thing is, though, I don't know. Maybe is Disney that dependent on Star Wars? It seems like if, all these families that go to Disney every year, they just go to Disney. It's Magic Kingdom. It's Universal Studios. It's, Epcot. It's, all these SeaWorld. And I could be wrong here, but I just don't see a family putting off their vacation at Disneyland to wait for Star Wars to be done. Now, which means to me that it shouldn't necessarily be responsible for any park drop. When we marry this up with a lot of the data we see with Hollywood movies, even the cinema is down. We saw Disney reporting huge losses on like the X-Men film, for example, Dark Phoenix. Disney itself, doesn't seem to have quite the magic right now. And you see many of people covering this. Part of the problem, and this is probably what nobody's talking about openly, but probably a big part of it, is part of the problem this is on boundingcomics.com. Part of the problem has to be that all the hype surrounding the new Star Wars land. Tourists fear anticipated crowds, and the LA locals seem to be waiting for summer crowds too. Admission to the park is not cheap either. It's $149 for one-day park or $199 during peak summer weekends for a park hopper ticket. Many families, that adds up real quick. Yeah, you have a family of 4, you're talking about $800 if you want to enjoy things. Iger also said on the call, at the same time, that was going on, all the local hotels in the region expecting a huge influx of visitation raised their prices. So it simply got more expensive to come and stay in Anaheim. In addition to that, we raised our prices. We brought our daily price up. So if you think about local visitation, we brought the price of a one-day ticket up substantially from a year ago. And then we've opened Galaxy's Edge with 1 attraction instead of 2, and the second attraction is going to open in January. And so for all these factors, they could have contributed to attendance that was below what we thought it would be. Sure. But there is some good news here for the Star Wars franchise, should you be that type of person. The state of Galaxy's Edge aside, a glance at recent box office figures should dispel, this is via adage.com or adage, any half-informed notion that younger Americans have little interest in the Star Wars phenomenon. For 3 consecutive years, offshoots of the original 1977 film have been the top-grossing theatricals in the U.S., released in 2015. The Star Wars Force Awakens vacuumed up $936 million, making it the nation's all-time highest-grossing film. The first installment of the new Star Wars trilogy was so popular, it surpassed the previous record holder James Cameron's Avatar in a mere 20 days. During the Force Awakens run, Hasbro sold $500 million in Star Wars toys and games. While the sales of the merchandise tied to the 2017 follow-up, Star Wars The Last Jedi, didn't meet Hasbro's expectations, the company said from the decline from one film to the next is likely a function of sheer glut at the time. The Last Jedi released, the toy line faced stiff competition from other members of Hasbro's partner brand, including Marvel because of Thor Ragnarok and Disney due to Frozen. The year after Force Awakens revitalized Star Wars mythos, the standalone movie Rogue One, a Star Wars story, beat all comers with $532 million in the box office sales, while The Last Jedi topped 2017 charts with $620 million. Now, these are huge numbers, but they're all way down from The Force Awakens. What does that tell you? For what it's worth, The Last Jedi ranks as the 9th biggest U.S. film of all time, release of all time, while Rogue One has claimed the number 12 slot. Of the 4 Star Wars films released since George Lucas sold the property, only one failed to resonate with moviegoers, although it was the 12th biggest ticket of 2018. Solo, a Star Wars story, fell well shy of expectations, grossing $213 million in stateside sales, or well under the $275 million production budget. So it looks like it lost money in that, at least in the stateside. Of course, I think modern cinema definitely relies too much on the Eastern markets, the international markets. But I suppose that's that's just me being someone who has to watch worse movies all the time. When we look at some of the anecdotal information on the Star Wars sales, this is via Data Racer. You can see says Walmarts have been removing the entire Star Wars toy section this year. 45% of the franchise revenue was toy and merchandise sales. Star Wars is imploding financially because of bad films and SJW politics, but we'll just say it's a vocal minority. Now, I've worked at Star Wars. I've worked at Walmart. They are historically bad at stocking toys any other time than during Christmas. So they may just be replacing it with things that are selling right now in the summer. I think it's important to understand. Although you can see they're putting Fortnite toys under the Star Wars section. The idea that they couldn't get Star Wars toys seems really unlikely. And then you can see some tweets. Went to a local Walmart looking for some new toys this morning. Not a single Star Wars or Transformers toy in sight. This is my local Walmart. The total of Star Wars toys, not sure I'd call that popular. There are more Fortnite toys than Star Wars toys in the Walmart. You can just see a lot of these empty planograms too, or empty shelves. And then you see lots more tweets. My local Walmart dumped all their Star Wars toys. I went to Walmart in Woodbury, New Jersey, and there wasn't a single Star Wars toy. Went to Walmart. There's completely got rid of Star Wars. 4 months later, in the local Walmart near my in-laws still has no Star Wars section. So you can see a lot of tweets supporting perhaps some poor sales. And then you see the Star Wars franchise revenue. What's interesting is toy sales are bigger than the movies. And DVD sales are close to box office sales. You got, you got $4 billion in box office sales. You got $3.7 billion in DVD sales, almost $3 billion in video games, book sales on just under $2 billion, and then toy sales at $12 billion. That's insane. That's a huge percent of. God, am I saying billion right? Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's interesting to see, I see Star Wars toys even at like Walgreens and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see the dichotomy there. Certainly some Walmarts, whether they're deciding not to stock them or they're just out, I don't know. But certainly there's people noticing it. Star Wars might be one of the biggest and most popular film franchises in Hollywood. This is via Epic Stream. According to a report on Bloomberg, Star Wars merchandising hasn't been as strong as it used to be. Star Wars toys sales spiked when Disney released The Force Awakens back in 2015. However, merchandising hasn't enjoyed as much success since. Not only that, but it seems like Walt Disney's Star Wars theme park, Galaxy's Edge, has also been having trouble finding success. It's interesting to me. I think, you look at the comment, well, Disney should start out by calling them bad words. If that doesn't work, then talk about subverting expectations. The $200 flimsy lightsaber, I don't think is exactly bringing people into the park. And in the days of social media now, people can get a pretty quick idea what the park's like and make a decision if they want to spend their money on that. I think that there's at least, whether you buy all this or not, I think it's fair to say that there's absolutely a section of the Star Wars fandom that feels alienated, that would have likely spent money on the products and just aren't anymore. And many of them are the people that were buying a lot of the toys, because let's be honest, Star Wars toys aren't being bought by 5-year-olds or parents for 5-year-olds. They're being bought by fans, people who collect, things like that, in my opinion. So interesting. Do you think Star Wars Galaxy's Edge can turn it around? Do you think we've reached peak Star Wars and it's just oversaturated? What do you think is going on here? I'm sure it's a combination of things, but I am looking forward to your comments in the comment section down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.